Hi, everybody, and welcome to the latest COVID-19 related Q&A, I guess, that we're doing here on Provisioner Online. I'm here in my house, in my home in Chicago, Illinois, and I'm happy to be joined this time by Anya Fernald from Belcampo, a processor and also restaurant company in LA and New York. And they have a very unique first of all, unique business proposition and in what they do. And they have a very unique perspective on what the pandemic is doing, I guess, to the industry, if you will. So Anya, thanks so much for joining me. I appreciate it. I'm going to jump right into the first question. Belcampo sells a product that really is not a commodity product. And, that's great. It's a premium product. And I think that a lot of people would have a really stereotypical assumption that, when times get tough, when the economy is uncertain and things like this happen, consumers in general might slide back toward those commodity products, that they're easier to sell, they're easier for consumers to buy because they're cheaper. But it sounds like Belcampo is having some really good success here early on in the pandemic in terms of sales and popularity of their products. Have you seen that? And then what do you think, what are some insights or maybe some idea of why consumers are jumping on board with Belcampo and still cleaning them off the shelves?
Yeah, it's been a very interesting time for us. I too, Andy, shared that concern. Our products are a premium product. We're typically priced about 10% higher than top of market. We sell everything from fresh, organic, pastured whole chickens to cooked sausages to hamburgers in our restaurants. And across the board, this is priced really for a premium buyer. What I've seen during COVID is the resonance of the integrity of the brand. Okay, so what I think is happening is that in times of fear, our customer is reassured by the fact that my supply chain can guarantee 100% transparency. It's all fully owned supply chain or via partner farms that are sourced and known locally. Everything is processed in our own USDA slaughterhouse. So two aspects. One is we've been able to really dig into the brand values that our customers like. And the second is our supply chain is wholly owned. We've been extremely responsive. In the space of a week, we were able to pivot our entire slaughterhouse and production chain to the SKUs that were performing best in our portfolio and just start pumping those out. So that's been a really nice kind of flexibility. Another piece I need to call out, Belcampo is a wellness adjacent brand. We're a meat brand that's about human wellness. And not surprisingly, my biggest seller in COVID, bone broth. A lot of what I'm selling has to do with people looking to bolster immunity and build health.
So not only do you have that wellness piece, but the loyalty that the consumers have and the trust they have in what Belcampo does is kind of helping Belcampo weather the storm in a way.
It's interesting, I've been getting direct messages. We're very active on social media, and I've been getting direct messages from customers saying, thank you for being a brand I can rely on in this time. They go to the grocery store and the grocery store feels radically different from the way it did 2 weeks ago. They come to Belcampo, our trucks come directly from our slaughterhouse. Our shelves are flush. So it's of course our restaurants are closed, but it's been a very different feeling. So that's part of it. But the use pattern is changing as well. So we haven't seen a huge hit to our top line revenues. We've actually seen massive growth in our raw meat sales. But we've definitely seen different ways that people are interacting with the brand. So our retail sales are growing massively. Our butcher shop sales are growing massively. But the most interesting trend is our app is through the roof. Wow. So our customers are looking to engage with us directly. My utilization on app for our food delivery was around 3% prior to COVID. It's currently at 30%. So 30% of my customers that are getting the product delivered are doing it via our own platform, which I love, right? Because I don't pay my percentage on delivery there, but that's been incredible. And that to me says people want to connect directly with a brand that they can trust in a period of extreme stress and risk.
So let's talk about the processing, the butcher side, what kind of adjustments have you guys had to make there, if any? And are you finding yourselves able to keep up with this crazy growth that's going on in the marketplace?
Yeah, our customers right now want quick, ready-to-eat items. They want our fully cooked sausages, single-pound packs of ground beef, 12-ounce boneless New Yorks. Right? They're not as interested in like the whole pork loins and the export racks and the kind of fun stuff, obviously. So that's been a big shift for us. So we've been able to pivot really quickly on our supply chain and toggle to producing all of those SKUs. We bring whole animals from the farm and we turn them into a range of retail products. We can move the dial on how we turn the animal into the product, right? So that's been pretty easy for us to hit. It's about an 8-day delay, right, from when we started to get new information to when we were able to pivot the supply chain, but that's now fully actioned. Then, the use case as well, it's been really interesting for us is the person that's looking to fill a 15 square foot cubic foot freezer, right? So there's lots of obviously kind of much bigger buys. Those tend to be via our butcher shops. Everybody wants everything vacuum packed, obviously. Nothing really beyond that, just more bulk buys, people interested in larger containers and interested in convenience foods. I'm seeing that taper a little bit because I think there's some fatigue, after a couple of days of eating pre-cooked sausages, you're like, great, I'd like to have, let's cook up a tri-tip or something. So that is going to shift over time. But that's been a really big driver for us is those 12-ounce, very ready to prepare meals. Also, of course, eggs. And, it just dawned on me a couple days into the crisis, it's like, gosh, people, especially in our demographic, but across the US are just cooking less and less. And eggs is one of the few things that everybody knows how to cook. So of course that's what they're buying, of course. And that's how we need to support them. So what we've been focused on is like, of course, all the eggs, we've been able to produce lots of eggs, which is great directly on the farm. But then also, how do we create more information for our customers about simple, ready to eat meals? People who maybe just have never had time to cook. Always on the road, always every night is a different event, right? And those people are now coming to the kitchen for the first time. So we've been building our social media content around educating our consumers on home cooking.
So on the food service, you mentioned the app and being a big change. And so on that takeout delivery kind of side of the business, with that big expansion in the customer base that you're seeing right now, obviously, again, I think it's like you mentioned with the retail and the cooking at home, people get tired of the same thing over and over, right? So you're going to have some folks fall off and that's going to happen. But what is Belcampo doing to kind of take advantage of the fact that this popularity is there now and win those consumers over so that whenever we get through this whole pandemic, you created even more business for yourselves?
I have been focused on building up my on-delivery and on-demand repertoire. So we've more than doubled the number of items that are available for delivery. We've also been really going deep on social media advertising, SEO, SEM, and growing our influencer roster. This week we'll double the number of influencers working on Belcampo's behalf. So we've been just going deep into taking this moment, allowing ourselves to connect with customers, be there for them in a time of need. This is an extremely complicated business that we run. It's, we have a 30,000 acre farm, our own USDA slaughterhouse, lots of different stores and retail outlets. It's been really complicated and cost intensive to build, but this is the moment where this type of uniqueness can flex. And there are certain customers that are like, yes, I want what's different about Belcampo. So for us, it's like, how do we capture that moment really in a gentle way, say, this is very different. You're not buying a mass undifferentiated commodity meat. You're buying a very specific type of product, but we're making it as convenient and friendly as possible. You can get it on your phone. You can get it in these different shops. You can go to a premium grocer and get it. You can get it everywhere. And we're trying to make that connection for customers so they really understand the value of the premium, right? This is a moment where we can show the premium. Let's do it, right? Let's go and say, this is extremely different. Here is why, and here is why you can trust us right now.
And the beauty is too, the folks who are buying it and taking it home and cooking it that maybe don't know or didn't know or were scared, if you will, to try and cook with something like that, you're winning them over by giving them those instructions and showing them that indeed, you don't need to be afraid to cook with these products. You don't need to be afraid to do these kinds of things. So that makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. Yes, and we're
So
partnering. I mean, we work with Traeger, with other different companies. We're looking to build more and more content to say, Instapot, like anything you're cooking with, like here's how to do it. Because the bigger question is what's going to happen in the longer term. I don't think that things are going to normalize in the restaurant world until the end of this year. I'm certainly not going to want to go to a crowded place anytime soon, right? I mean, I think we're all going to be a bit in shock after this. And I think it's going to be a time where consumer preferences are going to toggle. I've been looking this in terms of our team's leadership and how we're communicating this. It's like, this is an amazing opportunity for a pivot. And these are consumer trends that have been at the simmer for years, right? And this is going to be kind of 3 years of evolution compressed into maybe 3 months.
it's funny.
And
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
right, be nimble, be opportunistic. That's the way, right?
And it's funny to think, for how many years has the industry, the food industry in general, complained about how, the new generation doesn't know how to cook and all of this. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
Now they're going to have to know how to cook. And you're right. I think you're absolutely right. It's going to be a new normal for them, and the industry's got to be ready to pivot and address that when it's not going to be a light switch when we can all come back, but when we all do go back and get things ready, people are going to be cooking more from home, maybe, because now they feel comfortable doing it. So that makes a lot of sense. So then one last question really quick, in terms of, speaking of crowded places, what is Belcampo doing for its employees in the delivery takeout side and on the processing butcher retail side? What have you guys instituted there to kind of keep your employees safe and keep everybody healthy and comfortable too? Because, I'm sure they're afraid as well of getting sick.
That is the number one issue right now. So I start with the most critical path, which is our slaughterhouse, our USDA plant up in Wairika. And that's where we've done the most extreme measures. So we have mandatory temperature checking, gloves and masks for any employees that have contact with any external truck drivers or people picking up product, et cetera. So there we're on the most critical kind of lockdown. Again, it's really about communication. Any signs of illness, any just not feeling on top of your game, do not come to work. Social distancing is challenging on a slaughterhouse floor. It's collaborative work. You're cutting up beef together, right? But to the degree possible, we've instituted, for example, in our e-commerce packing room, we're doing massive amounts of volume out of that. We've instituted social distancing in those spaces as well. Fortunately, where our farm and slaughterhouse are based is a very low density area of Northern California. It's Siskiyou County. Of course, there are COVID cases there. There are COVID cases everywhere, but we're fortunate to not be in an extremely high risk area. That said, the abundance of precaution. On our farm team, social distancing is honestly the norm. People are pretty remote and out there with animals, so that's really been easy enough to implement. It's basic, sanitation. In the restaurant and butcher shop operations, again, here it's been about really frequent hand washing, mandatory gloves, masks where necessary, and then just that encouraging, your employee that is a customer service maven, right? The guy who crushes it and engages, getting that guy to step back a couple feet, but still remain warm and connected, because that's your instinct, right? I'm a hospitality person. I love hospitality. And I have that thing too, where I immediately, I see a guest in trouble, I want to dive in and I want to engage. And so coaching that shift is really important. So worker safety has been the number one. And honestly, it's been heartbreaking to put people on temporary suspension and to shut down the restaurants. But Lord, from a perspective of just being concerned about our team and health, it was a relief. It felt to me in the final days before the shutdown, like this is a time bomb of people interacting. So as much as we can do to promote worker safety, that's the key. So these are tough times, and we're navigating it. And we also, as you know, there's a lot of laws about how employees need to have agency. They're good laws, right? And some of these practices now are on that borderline. Right. So it's a tough area in leadership for me to figure out, where do I push? Where do I kind of run a yellow light? And in light of the greater good. And it's been a balancing act.